No, no, no. You guys got it all wrong. All wrong. Every detail wrong. There are no Russians involved. None. Not a single Russian. You guys fell into the easiest trap there ever was. Unbelievable. I'm really just so disappointed. It's just that there's this combination of sounds that changes everything. I'm gonna look out for it and stop you. That's all. That's it. Nada. Zilch. You guys are, I don't even know what to say. Just stick to the music. Sheesh. Music, it's a mystery. And here on the Mystery of Misery Work Farm, we hope to decode it. Three scrapping young lads searching for the meaning of music. Crawdad, retired astronaut and ethnomusicologist. Oklahoma Slim, undercover unlicensed dentist and taxidermist. And Jake Leg Jake, rehab center tester and owner of Tiny's fresh crabs and other surprises. They join forces with rockets, paranormal gear, a cell phone, and an unending desire to learn 4 or more chords. On Music, the Mystery of Misery Work Farm.
I've got bagpipes all over the place. Bagpipe parts, the chanter, my bagpipe parts here. Got some working on the workbench, and got some up here. Here are the Great Highland pipes. And I got some bagpipes from Russia over here. The idea of bagpipes are really simple. So you've got a drone pipe that just plays a drone. And you add another pipe where you play the melody. And to make it continuous so you don't have to take a breath, they add a bag that you blow that fills the air, and then that plays the drone, and then you can add more drones. We know the bagpipes made it to Scotland in the 13th and 14th century, and they were in Europe prior to that. The string version of the bagpipe they made in Europe was this hurdy-gurdy, where a wheel which turns and plays the strings. So it's essentially a fiddle of sorts. And so in the medieval Europe, the music was dominated by a lot of bagpipes and by a lot of hurdy-gurdies. There were also flutes and probably drums and vocal things going on as well. And of course, the fiddle was a medieval instrument that we know they had in Europe. And they could very well played with the drum strings. So while Europe was entering the Renaissance and the Baroque era and the Cocotte, and composers were developing music for ensembles and developing music for horns and developing music for the harpsichord and so on and so forth, up in the Celtic regions in Ireland and Scotland, they probably were still using instruments like the bagpipes and the fiddles, since they were easily portable and those were very difficult countries to get to. In the cities in Scotland, they probably had more modern things going on. They had 4 universities and they were more accessible by road and by ship. Up in the Highlands, though, where people were farming, where people were living in different ways, these easier to transport instruments were very common. There was a long period of diaspora of the Celtic people, the Scottish and Irish people. Kind of started with the first Jacobite Revolution and then the Battle of Culloden, which sort of sealed the fate of the clan system, and Britain came in to take control of Scotland and Ireland, at least the northern part of Ireland. And at that time, a lot of Scottish people, Irish people left to go to North America. Some went to Australia. After that, there was a lot of pressure by the English to convert to the Church of England from the kind of more traditional Catholicism that the Irish and Scottish practiced. So that created a big diaspora. And then as the 19th century was winding down, coming into the 20th century, there were things like the potato blight, and that people were starving because they weren't able to feed themselves, which may have some sabotage to it, maybe not, but this created another big movement of Celtic people, both Scottish and Irish, out of Scotland and Ireland, and a lot of those people ended up in the United States, in Pennsylvania and Boston, but a lot of them went down into the Appalachian Mountains. So your classic hillbilly really is going to reflect back on the Scotch-Irish that came in the 17th and 18th century. My grandfather tells stories of growing up in a little town in South Carolina where he didn't see any vehicles besides carts and horses until he left in the 1930s. He talks about that people there spoke Scottish. Most people didn't speak English at all. And so they were pretty isolated. And there was probably a longing for the music that they knew and that they recognized. So the Scotch-Irish probably arrived in the Appalachians without very many instruments, because they could basically just take whatever they could carry, and the instruments would largely get squeezed out, although there were maybe some penny whistles that made it. And then there would have been some availability in the towns of fiddles, so you'd probably play more like this. They created the mountain dulcimer, which is a instrument that's kind of like a slide guitar, so it's usually played with a slide and has drone strings. And then as the Scotch-Irish met with the African people who lived in the area, enslaved people or former enslaved people or free black people who lived there, they would have come across an instrument that looked like this that was developed by African Americans, and it was the banjo, which has, we don't know if the African musicians played it with the drone this way, but it's likely that it really had So some musicologists started to go back up into the Appalachians around the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, and what they found was that people up there were singing very pure versions of Old English, Irish, and Scottish songs. And so they were able to record early versions. They were able to hear lyrics that they hadn't heard before, and they were able to find this trove of Celtic and English music up in the Appalachian Mountains.
Hello, word from my winters. Dr. Benway, you know, so I got more than you can say. Needles and junkies, buy them or else.
Second-hand stone when I walked by some hooligans smoking reefer in the cold bars. I'd seen reefer madness, so I understood how deep this rabbit hole can go. Got so high, now I'm tripping through the fog. Tripping through the seeing things that are bloody filthy lie it is. Not any of this happened, it was just bad gas.
Shut up, will you? We're recording a song.
My brothers came to find me. Got a contact high just by touching me. In the iris of my eye. Genre from the fusion of rancid gas and the mentally deranged Scotsman. In continuing the rich American tradition of hate and blame, the Scots, and even more so the Irish, were met with prejudice and scorn. People in the young country were suspicious of their loyalties. They were sure that their coming was a conspiracy by the Vatican to take over the country and force everyone into Catholicism. The predominantly second and third generation Scotch-Irish Protestants who started the Ku Klux Klan saw them as big a threat as that of blacks, Jews, Italians, Native people, and Mexicans. No Irish need apply was a slogan common in New York, where most immigrants entered the country. So driven out of their homeland by starvation, unable to get work in their new country, Irish challenged the Italian mafia for domination of organized crime. In the Appalachians, most of the Scotch-Irish survived as subsistence farmers and later as laborers in coal mine and other extraction and early manufacturing careers. There they found themselves at the whim of weather, of captains of industry, robber barons, people who saw these people as a source of extremely cheap labor. In Appalachia, the Scotch-Irish and an increasing population of people of African origin and indigenous Americans seem to have a strained but symbiotic relationship. As a result, Celtic and British music and instruments mixed with African spiritual and dance music, syncopated rhythms, and Native American rhythms and scales. The very Celtic-y scale, the dominant scale or Mixolydian mode, and European chordal music and drones mixed with the bluesy scales of Africa and Native Americans, creating the haunting melodies and harmonies that develop there. Combined with the shared stories of suffering and abuse, a number of unique musical forms started to develop, which is really the backbone of what we consider to be American music. Virtuoso fiddle and banjo players, and eventually guitars and harmonicas made their way to the hills, eventually making a mesmerizing vocal technique really distilled by singer Roscoe Holcomb, known as the High Lonesome Sound, continues to mesmerize listeners around the world. Like the grandfathers of the Delta Blues, so many of these innovators of our unique musical heritage were mostly completely unknown outside their small communities until musicologists recorded this tune, initially for posterity, but eventually to sell records. The role of the churches, both black and white, played an integral role too in shaping the music. Praise and gospel and spiritual music helped lighten the hearts of people often seen as work mules. I like to say that American music was forged when the gods of Africa and the spirits of Native America started to boogie down with the European Jesus and his followers. Certainly, there are many others who influence our music. Jews from Eastern Europe, Russia, other places, brought their own styles of thought and sound. Chinese laborers were brought here to build the railroad system, then denied citizenship and became demons to established Americans. Japanese agricultural workers, Rome travelers, gypsy people, people from South and Central America. In the mountains of New Mexico, unique cultures were established with rich, ancient practices of Catholicism and Spanish and flamenco music. It was lost in the hills, and these pure expressions were later uncovered, shining a light on long extinct arts and faiths that take us back 500 years. People from all corners of the earth, each leaving a unique mark on our culture, like throwing a new flavor in the gumbo cauldron, bringing together tastes that had never come together before.
I had this idea for a sound.
An idea for a sound?
An idea for a sound that would be the accordion, the bagpipes, and the banjo.
Uh-huh.
Let's try it.
Okay.
Guys ready?
Yeah. Ready.
Don't you ever do that again.